Well, it's still not morning anymore, but one thing I really have to say, I'm very, very impressed with the organization and this event. I didn't know TED before I was asked to speak here. And really big applause to the organizers. It's a fantastic... I really enjoyed myself, and there's a lot of food for thought, and comparing the idea of food and media and content. And especially when we talk about content we present to kids, we believe that quality is a major issue which is being overlooked. How do we detect quality in our business? What as a parent, what can you do to select in who agrees that television, in terms of mediocrity, television nowadays is junk? But there's a lot of people who agree with me. It's junk, unfortunately. And why is it junk? Well, I can't tell you. I can't tell you, probably because the smallest common denominator in some industries, such as advertising, is targeted to people who eat junk food and probably consume junk media. It's really a challenge. And how do you really make a difference between a children's program which is better quality, or which gives something to a child or to a family situation? You have to look at the stories which are being told. In the end, it's, in any form of communication, in the end it's the message which is important. It's not how it's said, it's what you say. And if you realize that the story which is told in a show doesn't really make sense, most probably it's not very good. And so, like bedtime stories, when you read a story to your child and you find out that it really doesn't make sense, well, you're not going to read the book to the end, probably. Dialogues, language. In the development of any child, language is very, very important. And the dialogues used in programs, and also especially if it's synchronized, so if it's translated, there can be huge differences. So look, just listen to the dialogue. Try to avoid violence. War is not child's play. Really try to avoid it. It's something which needs to be explained. Of course, you should not refrain kids from impressions of today's world, and you don't need to. Television is a small part of media consumption nowadays, and most of it is now consumed also online, YouTube and the likes. And try to look for uplifting and inspiration in content. Think back when you were a kid, what did you watch? What kind of shows do you remember? And most likely the ones you remember are the ones which are actually good quality. And you can actually show them to your children, most probably in a way which has them experience the programs the same way you experience them. And educational content, I mean, any form of content which makes sense is in some way educational. As I said, language, experience, shows stories which are told which actually have a historical background or immerses the child in faraway places, historical places. We have seen one show we have, which is the story of Ulysses, retold in animation. So it gives some insight into classical literature. The first point I want to make is look for quality. That's in a media which is regarded as not delivering the biggest quality and being very mediocre. Look for quality. The second point I want to make is teach kids about media. How does it work? Make them learn it in how they consume media. Be selective and avoid junk. That's the first part, but the second part is also try to really be selective. And in the old days, when you read a certain newspaper, you would be regarded as being or looking at the right website like TED. You can really you should be selective, and kids should be selective. Discuss the content. Just discuss what you see. Don't put, that's another point, don't put a TV set in the bedroom of a child. Put it in the living room, so you know what they watch, and at least you can discuss what they watch. And it gives them also a way to have feedback, like reading a story. It's very interactive, because if something is not understood, you can ask questions. If you're in front of your TV set as a kid and you see something you don't understand, there's no way of getting any feedback. Limit the time. We think for preschoolers, 30 minutes per day, between 6 to 10-year-olds, 60 minutes, and thereafter 90 minutes. Why? It has another function. Then kids have to select, and they have to say, well, I want to watch this because I like it. It's something I want to see, and ask why they want to see it. And many times kids ask to see something because they heard about it in school and they want to talk about it with their friends at school. Spreading fear, that's a very important point. Spreading fear in the media is, unfortunately nowadays, used to manipulate in one way or another. And children, when they see something they don't understand, explain to them that violence in fiction, when it's displayed, it's not really real violence. The guy who gets shot, he will get up, have a beer in the canteen, in the studio, and then probably has to react it 3 times. Give them an explanation how the media industry works, that it's actually a product they see, it's not reality. And immerse them also in the idea that in the future, even more of our reality will be manufactured by us, by the media industry. And again, good content and constructive journalism is really the way to go forward. That's also a way to avoid, as I said, the spreading of fear and the spreading of journalism, which basically points out the not so good stories. Of course, bad news always travels well. Historically, people say it's because if you had bad news, you should deliver it quickly to your within your region, because if there's a war, you should be warned quicker, and good news, they don't need to be spread so quickly. But anyhow, nowadays I think it's important that there's constructive news, and there's also always an inspiring, uplifting idea. And the last point I want to make, and this is a general point, make kids happy. It sounds very, well, make them happy. But make them happy. Because if you think along such guidelines, if you think really what does make children, the next generation, happy, you will find a lot of answers to current problems, a lot. Children will have to solve, or will solve, all the problems in some way or another. We have to solve the problems today which we inherited. And they will have to solve it. The only way to actually make this is give them the ability to create. And in the media industry, it's so easy today to create something. TED is a great example. It's a great example of generating news recording. Any digital camera today can make any child film something, become a director, or you record something. Show kids how to generate content. And by generating content, they understand that everything is man-made, it's manufactured, and it's a great way to teach them to create. This way, they are able to become creative And creativity, in the end, is the solution to everything. We cannot imagine imagination. That's very difficult. So I believe it's very important to teach kids to create. And well, if you want to make kids happy, again, you don't want to spoil the environment. You don't want to limit peace and freedom. You want to take decisions which create a sustainable economy. You want to do things which, in the end, we all agree, our ancestors wished for us, and we should really try very hard and be very, very strict in this. Always be soft to your family, to your people, to your fellow, but be very harsh and very strict in this matter. That's really a way, I believe, problems can be resolved if you think along the lines of making kids happy, and it's really important. I think it's really important to go along the lines, and especially if you're in the content creation business like we are, to look for content. One issue, because I heard about something about Barbie, of course, we always regard ourselves as the wooden toy company in this business. And wooden toys, not having, being more on the creative side. And so plastic toys, because there was Barbie doll mentioned as being a good toy. Well, I think Barbie has now created all the different occupations women can have, and now they also released the so-called divorced Barbie. And the divorced Barbie is a huge gift because it comes with Ken's boat and Ken's house. And plastic toys are very, very, they, in our view, limit imagination. Try to really help kids, give them something which allows them to create. And so, as you just heard, the situation is rather hopeless. It's hopeless, and it's very dim. And again, one thing, never ever again, never ever. The situation is hopeless, but it's never serious. Thank you for your attention.